Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I create a beard using pastel pencils, so be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Right, so it's just a little study this is. It's 6 inch by 4 inch. Just putting a centre point in there like I normally do, because I'm doing this freehand. Now I do freehand is from that centre point I just imagine the angles, and because I've scaled the image to the same size, 6 by 4, I'm using the sides and the top and bottom to give an idea of where the actual shapes lie. So I get the big shapes in first, then focus on angles and also measurements, comparing one area against another. So once you've started to draw an area in, then you've got a shape to actually compare the other shapes with. Also use the pencil on a vertical plane and a horizontal plane to see how one point and another point lines up. Right, I'm just going to start to speed this up now, but if you want a more in-depth look at how I do the outline freehand and other methods as well, please check out the list of videos in my channel in the description below. Here's the colours I'll be using for the underdrawing. And first of all, I just rubbed out there with the kneadable eraser, which is Faber-Castell brand, just to ghost the outline a little bit. I'm going to keep this at a fast pace with the underdrawing, because I want to spend most of the time in real time showing you how I've done the details and the rich colours. So basically what I'm doing here is just finding the shapes. All the idea for the underdrawing is to correct the outline and to just make sure the shapes are in the right places. Now I'm making my own black here by using dark green and a cold red. Now to get a black or a real dark tone of a colour is always use the complementary colour. So to desaturate a red, use the green. To desaturate orange, use blue. To desaturate a yellow, use a purple. So with this being flesh colour, mostly pinky colour, I'm using green to actually desaturate it. So, because sometimes when you put the colours down, they're too rich and glowy too much. So to desaturate that, just add the complementary colour, which is green. And then just keep adjusting. But like I say, this underdrawing is just basically just getting the shapes in the correct place, redrawing it, getting a feel for the actual picture. But it's really enjoyable because you can be loose and free with it. And each stage I do, because the next stage is going over this with the rich colours, that's also a free and alive state. It's not too detailed. The details come right at the end on the last stage. So basically you're just getting a feel, getting the energy. Even though you're drawing lips and the beard and everything here, there's energy within that on coming through the beard of that person. Because if it was a commission, you'd want it obviously to make it look like the person you're drawing. So really switch on to the energy always, no matter what stage you're doing. What I tend to do is just let go of details by opening the heart, let go of the mind, and just switch on to awareness rather than thinking about it. Because to think about something, you can only think about one thing at a time, but to be aware, you can be aware of everything. So being aware actually spreads the vision, so you see the whole. Great combination for the darkness of the beard is the burnt umber and warm blue, and also yellow ochre as well, mixing in with the combination. Really creates nice subtle colours. Because it's daylight, because it's outside this photograph was taken, it's really fresh combination, just using those colours to create the greys within the beard. When you're doing these loose underdrawings, you see how far I'm away from the pencil tip. Just keep your fingers quite away from the actual tip of the pencil. It keeps everything nice and loose, and you can just put a nice layer on top of the pastel mat, because you don't want to put too much pigment down. It's got to be light and keep some tooth there, so when we start putting the details in and the actual rich colours, which is the next stage, there's something for that colour to sort of grab onto. So never over really load your pastel mat on this sort of underdrawing. Just keep it nice and light and loose. It's just basically drawing the areas, like I said, just blocking in the shapes. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Now, because this is a video regarding a beard, I don't want to go too much depth on how I've done the skin tone, but if you look into my channel, I've got a massive amount of videos now in there talking about in depth how I approach, how I do the skin tones, so be sure to check those out at the end. Just showing a bit of real time here, just showing you how I'm mapping the actual beard out. It's just a case of using your white, this Carbothello white, and just putting a few sort of marks here and there, just measuring it against the vertical plane, against either the nostril or the nose or wherever, just to see where it lies, and then just be free with it. You don't have to be exactly in the right place, but if you can keep a pattern similar, that will actually create less tension, because if you just put random marks in there, you'll lose your way, and then you'll get all stressed out wondering what sort of subtleties to put in. But if you keep a similar pattern, don't have to be exact, because I like to keep things loose anyway, so I'm not trying to, it's not hyper realistic, it's it's realistic, but it's not hyper realistic. I'm not trying to draw everything exactly like the reference image, it's just my interpretation. So just be free with it and just enjoy relaxation, and just flow, and just keep using angles and just marking where you think they'll be, and then more this will be glazed over later on when we start putting the rich colours in, but it just maps everything out. If you're enjoying this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this will help the channel to grow. Here's the Caran d'Ache pencils I've chosen for the rich colour stage. Here's the numbers. I will add to them as I progress, but I will show you those additional pencils as we go along. So when I do a portrait, it tends to be 3 stages. It's the outline and underdrawing, I treat as 1 stage, then the actual rich colours, which this one is now, which is focusing on trying to create the correct chroma and the value, and then the last stage will be the details. Here's an additional couple of pencils I'm using from the Caran d'Ache. With this stage, it's still like a blocking stage, we're still mapping it out, but I'm focusing now on trying to get that chroma right and also the values. So that's what I'm concerned with. I'm still not concerned with too much detail, so it keeps it loose, you see. If you just see it as light and shade and feeling, it just keeps that mood sort of fresh and alive. Just showing a little bit of real time now again, just showing you how I'm using the dark green and the warm red in this instance. So I'm changing it up. I'm only very, very lightly putting this on. It's like a little glaze you're putting over a colour you've already put there, but it's just subtly changing the actual feeling of that shadow. Like I said earlier, I don't want to spend too much time explaining how I do skin tones. It's more about how I'm doing the moustache and the beard. So if you want to check out again the actual videos in my channel, I've got loads in there on skin tone, so please be sure to check those out. So what I'm doing here is just planning everything again, so but I'm just being more aware now of trying to get the values and the chroma right. Now the chroma is how it shines, how it glows. See, a lot of people tend to just look at the values, but to create realism, I feel that if the chroma's right and the value's right, it don't matter how loose you are, it's still going to look realistic. So you can be as loose as you want to be or as detailed as you want to be, but if you get those two aspects right, the chroma and the values, you're sure to actually get a realistic look to it. Just a bit of real time, just showing you how I'm mapping it out now with the Carbothello white and then just glaze over with the yellow ochre to create that sort of glint to it, because the white will shine through the colour what you're glazing over the top, and that's how I try and get that chroma right within the beard as well, because it's very difficult to find a colour that's going to create that glow. Well, I've found anyway, without just doing the white first and then glazing over the top. It just seems to just give that extra sort of zing to it. I will be putting a little bit of lemon yellow in with that eventually when I start putting the details in, but at the moment all I'm doing is sort of just getting that sort of feel for it and just focusing, like I say, on them two aspects. So what I'm going to do now is speed through now, because that's similar what I'm doing right through with the beard, but I'm going to speed through now until we get to the detail stage, and I'll just show you how I approach that. Just like to take this opportunity to thank all my Patreons for their wonderful support every month through pledging. I really appreciate it, can't thank you enough, it does make a massive difference. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like to have the benefit of longer, slower, more in-depth videos, please check the link in the description below for more details. Slowing it down again to real time, just to show you how I'm using the black, because sometimes you can't get the depth of shadow you want by using the complementary colour. And also brown and blue, you're very limited to how dark you can get it with pastels. If you were mixing that in oil paint, you can get quite really dark, really brown and blue, and make really lovely blacks. But with pastels you've got to add that black, and now the Carbothello black is a magic. It's like a natural shadow, so I really recommend getting one of them. And now I've just glazed over now with that warm blue, which is creating that reflected light from the sky, and because this is outside, so you're getting that feeling of daylight, natural light on it. So that sort of combination, like I said earlier, is really good. So when you use a black, always mix a colour with it, because black on its own can look a bit dead. So always try and glaze something with it, no matter what colour. But if you try and add something with it, it just makes a difference. If you'd like to give a donation, please find a link in my heading on my channel page. I'd really appreciate any donation, no matter how small it is. It really does help to finance these videos. Now you can see me mapping it out now with the white, and then just going over areas with the black and brown and sometimes blue. Now the thing to look for really is to get the darkest dark in the same place around, so you're comparing one darkness against the other darkness, just making sure that you get a balance of values. So it's a really good idea to do that. Right, slowing it right down now to real time so you can see how I'm putting this black in. So what I'm doing is really letting go and just sense what needs to be done. Let the details just happen. So what I'm tending to do is just focusing on opening my heart, letting go of the mind, being aware rather than thinking, and just let the hand move where it needs to go. Just be free with it and spontaneous. I'm varying the pressure with the white here, the Carbothello white. Very light pressure to create greys, and then if I need to make a glowy part, I'll press on a little bit harder, then glaze over the top. So that's what I'm doing with the white. With the dark, I'm doing the same there. It's light pressure for grayer areas, pressing on harder for darker areas, and then I mix or glaze something with the black. So that's how I'm sort of getting that sort of body to the actual beard, is to create all these subtle glazes over top of this foundation with the white and the black. Now, before I can move on to all this stubby area of the beard, I need to get the flesh colours right, so I'm just roughing that in, so just very, very loose, using the Carbothello and Caran d'Ache pencils together to get that richness and subtleties. It's a case of just keep playing with the red and the green and the actual yellow ochre combinations of those to get the correct skin tones. I'm slowing it right down now so you can see how I get the details in the stubby area, just using the brown over the green, because what I did first, I used a dark green just to get an idea of where that beard stubble would be. That was early on in the underdrawing, didn't quite get to show you that. Reason being because you can change that green up into skin tone if you need to. So you're getting a pattern underneath that you can follow now, which I'm doing now. So I'm following that sort of green I put in earlier, and then I'm going over now with the brown, and then what I'll do is go over with the black in certain areas once I'm happy where the brown looks. But I can change that brown into a grey if I want to by adding blue to it and white, and then I can make that into a fleshed colour again if I need to. So if you ever make any mistakes, you can always rectify it by making any colour into a neutral colour, which is adding the complementary to it. But in this case, brown is great with blue to create greys when you're adding white with it. So, but it's always a good idea to do that sort of thing. Just gets you out of quite a few sort of problems if you do get them. So what I'm doing here is highlighting the hairs with the light flesh 5% tint of the Caran d'Ache range. Even though it's a flesh tint, it's really good for these glints, so I'm putting a little bit of that in because it's really rich, and then I'll probably glaze a little bit over the top of that as well. So you're playing with white and that colour just to see what looks best. So I'm glazing now the flesh tone there with a bit of green, just to get rid of that vividness a little bit. It's all about getting them values and chroma and sort of colour subtleties right. And now I'm going over the black now, over them bits of brown, because I'm happy where they are. So it's a case of building it up as you go along, really. Now with final details, all you're doing is just putting little glints here and there, and then just glazing over with lemon yellow and burnt sienna, which creates a gold. Hope you enjoyed this one. Here's the finished study at the correct angle rather than being in perspective on the easel, so you can see how it finished up. If you're interested in more of my work, here's a few links you might be interested in. Take care.